Live from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank, the bank that specializes in understanding you. It's time for North Fulton Business Radio.
And hello again, folks. Welcome to yet another edition of North Fulton Business Radio. We're coming up on episode number 200. We're close. I'm John Ray, and we are coming to you yet again from the Business RadioX studio inside Renaissance Bank in beautiful Alpharetta. We've got a fantastic guest, an old friend of mine, but before I introduce her, I just want to remind you that you're probably a reminder you don't want to know is that you're connected more than ever, whether it's your friends, your family, or your life that are after you. Renaissance understands how you bank, offering you mobile banking services that you need. And they also know that sometimes you need to speak to real people that have real answers, and that's why they have more than 190 convenient locations throughout the South ready to serve you. For more information, go to renaissancebank.com. Renaissance Bank, understanding you, member FDIC. And now we turn to Tonia Morris. Tonia is with Transition Enterprises. Tonia is an old friend, and she knows her stuff. So this is going to be fun. Tonia, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you here.
Absolutely.
So for those that don't know you, give them a little introduction to you and how you help folks.
Well, a lot of you may know me as the generational coach. I did a lot around millennials and multi-generation. I still do that.
Sure.
But I am so passionate about this new venture in my life, Transition Enterprises, and it really is geared to help professional women transition out of the workplace. Now, that seems very contrary to what I do in the corporate side, but I realized that so many women, when I worked in human resources, were so disengaged. And so I took a step back to determine, you know what, when I transitioned out to entrepreneurship, no one was there to help me to transition. And so I wanted to be a vehicle to help those who really want the next phase of their lives. So that's why that was birthed out of a purpose and something that I've done as well.
Yeah. So, you would think that individuals that come out of corporate would be steeped in business, would know everything there is to know about running a business, right?
Well,
but that's not really the case.
That's not the case. We bought into this blueprint that there was only one way to work. And so we go in with one way of working. And so when you think about that, it's a new relationship with work. And you know this here. I do a lot of millennials and multi-generation. The workforce has changed.
Right.
And so now a lot of us are asking, what can I do? How can I take my skills and really be the catalyst for my legacy? And that's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at.
Okay. Awesome. Now, I guess what are the big mistakes that you see when folks come out of corporate? I mean, and this is only a 30-minute show, Tonia. So.
You're absolutely right. But, a couple things. Mindset. That mindset. I can tell you when I first came out, I thought I did everything correctly. And for the most part, I did. I had a plan. I saved money, all those necessary things. But the game changer was my mindset. I left my mind at the job. And you and I know an employee mindset and an entrepreneur mindset do not work together. Because, for example, whether you work hard or not, in most cases at work, you're going to still get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. If you don't go out there and kill something, you won't eat. That's a mindset. That's a true mindset. And also, a lot of people that transition out, they've been told what to do. As an entrepreneur, you got to be innovative. You got to be a critical thinker. You got to do a lot of different things. I remember when I first came out and I was just sitting there. I'm like, okay, what to do? Because I've been told what to do. Mm-hmm. And so you have to reinvent, recreate, and you have to re-image your mindset because you're going to need it in order to be an entrepreneur. You're going to be doing multiple hats. Yeah.
So unpack that a little more for me, though, because when you say mindset, do you mean just the hunter versus the passive kind of mentality, or is there something more to it than that?
Oh, it's more.
Yeah.
You need that for sure. But for example, we all bought, like I said, into this blueprint that you go to school, you get a good job, and life is going to be good. And so you really don't get outside of that realm. Most of us don't really level our skill set up and believe that we can go into the market and meet people that can employ us. We have to have the mindset that we can hire ourselves, and we have talent and then solving problems. That's the big piece. You got to solve a problem.
Sure.
As a business owner, if you're not solving the problems, you're not in business. Right. And I don't think that we really own that. I think we really limit ourselves, and that mindset, you have to have a mindset that there's no limits.
I want to ask you about this when it comes to getting before you even leave corporate, okay? Because how do you know that you're going to have the right mindset and you're going to be on the path to success? What are the characteristics that I need to have before I even leave corporate? Well,
one of the things I talk to my clients about, you need to really understand your why. And I always say, if your why is not big enough, it will not keep you long enough. And what I mean by that, if you're mad at your boss, you don't like your employee, you're not making enough money, is that big enough to sustain you? Number one. Okay. Number two, you got to know that the skills that you have, you got to do some research. When I first came out, I just didn't jump out because I was mad or disengaged or all of that. I did some research, and I wanted to make sure that my skills or what I was going to bring to the market, it can bear it. Was there a problem I can solve? Then you got to think about who knows me. Oftentimes we got all these dreams, and like they always say, all the dreams are in the graveyard, right? All of the dreams. Right. I mean, that's the richest place is in the graveyard. But to take it a step further, you don't want to be a best known secret.
Yeah.
So you got to get out there. You got to meet people while you're still working. You got to leverage relationships. That's what I did. Because my goal was when I left, I was going to run. I was not going to be walking. And so you have to really, number one, look at that mindset and make sure that you understand the difference. That's why you need a coach. Secondly, you got to make sure you revisit your why. It has to, because so many people I want to work for myself. But what does that mean? Is it big enough to keep you?
Well, it's a little self-absorbed, right?
Oh, it is.
Yeah, as opposed to some of the whys you described where I want to make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Those are two totally different whys.
Absolutely. And if you want to just come out just to make money, that's a different why. For me, I knew, I was a mother first. I wanted to be a mother, and I knew at some point I was going to come out. So I started preparation 5 years before and that's a little bit longer. Yeah, it took me 5 years, but what I was doing both. So I was establishing relationship, massaging my mindset, getting that ready, understanding who my target market is, doing a lot of research, networking after hours, before work. I did all of that.
Before you even left?
Before I left, I would get up in the morning, go to the chamber at 7:30 in the morning. Hey, this is Tonia. I did my little spiel. I had relationship. Then I had contracts while I was working.
Look at you.
Oh, yes. I told you I was not playing.
You're awesome. Wow. I knew you were awesome, but I didn't know you were that awesome. Wow.
Well, I think that you have to be real serious about it.
Yeah, right.
This is not about me making more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's about having impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first started out, I really wanted to impact the workforce because, I spent 25 years in HR, and I knew the workforce was changing with different generations, and how do we bring them together? But as I pivot and knew that I see so many women, because women are the number one consumer that's going into business.
Right.
But why do we go back so quickly, And so I knew that a lot of women wanted out, but they couldn't stay out because they didn't do the necessary things to keep them out. And so that's why that was a passion for me.
Folks, if you just joined us, we're speaking with Tonia Morris, and she is with Transition Enterprises. Tonia, let's talk about women or men, for that matter, that unexpectedly get kicked out, right? That maybe get laid off or what have you, outsourced, which is the polite way that companies like to say that they really weren't planning on this, but suddenly they've got a big decision to make. What kind of counsel do you give those folks?
Well, and I use me for an example. Although I was planning to leave, but I was asked to leave sooner than I wanted to. And so I would say, I will put the cry out, do not ever get too comfortable, because it's not a matter if, it's when.
Sure.
So I would say keep your skills. You want to skill up. Make sure you have a skill set that can warrant in the market. Number 2, you should always be thinking about rewiring yourself, because this thing about retiring, I don't think you retire. I think you get rewired, if you will.
Right.
But most importantly, I believe that you should always, number 1, keep a network. Keep your network going. Definitely have relevant skills in today's market. Today, there's no excuses. With technology the way it is, we can do whatever it is we want. I mean, podcasting, anything you choose to do. But for those who are sidelined or been kicked to the curb or whatever we're going to use, I think that you can recover from that. You can take those skills, because years of experience can be to your advantage, right? And so really, I think you have to have a transition plan to determine, okay, what's next for me? Because there's so many people are asking, what is next?
So you're advocating having that transition plan regardless of whether you're anticipating a transition or not.
I think so. And another piece that a lot of organizations are really competing with is the gig economy. And the gig economy is a great way to jumpstart your entrepreneur journey. And what I mean by that, a lot of people do Uber and all that, but it's bigger than that. You can do freelance. You can do a lot of little things on the side. In my day, we call it the side hustle.
Sure.
But now this gig economy is really real, and a lot of companies are realizing that that's what they're going to have to compete with, because it gives you freedom. It allows you to be able to do the things you really want and make money. That's another way you can really jumpstart your transition.
Sure. And when you speak of networking for folks in corporate, I think it's important to come back around to what you did, which is you were networking outside the company.
Oh, yes.
Because a lot of folks in corporate hear networking and they think within, right? Right.
So there's a difference between being an entrepreneur inside the organization and entrepreneur. So what I did, I knew I was coming out, and I knew relationship was going to be the game changer. So you really have to be committed to it. So I would get up early in the morning, go to my chamber meetings, meet different people, have coffee. In the evenings, I do the same thing. And I had contracts. I had 10 contracts before I came out.
Look at you.
Yeah. I had 10 contracts. I was crazy, but I wanted to establish that relationship. And then I became a professional speaker. Then I found myself speaking a lot. So I would take vacations to speak. You have to do those things to set yourself up. It's called positioning, but you can't do anything alone. You can't do a life alone. You can't do business alone. So you need to make sure you understand the art of networking. Now, networking is not you going somewhere and passing out cards. And I want people to know that it's not that. And so it's about synergy. It's about relationship building. Sometimes it takes a while, and we have to understand that. And so what better way to understand that while you're working? Because a lot of people come out and think they're going to get a deal that night, and that's not how it works.
Yep, for sure. So Tonia Morris is with us, folks, and she is the founder of Transition Enterprises, and she's also the author of a great new book, which I love the title of, Before You Say I Do to Entrepreneurship, what you need to know before you leave your 9-to-5 job. So not only can you talk about it, but you've read the book.
I was thinking about, when I first thought about this transition, I was asked to do a summit, and it was packed out. And I was like, wow, people are really hungry about that. I mean, they started calling. And so it was just laid on my heart. What can you do to help people transition? Because they don't know how to.
Right.
And so that name was dropped in my spirit. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the marriage analogy, because you got to know what you're doing before you say I do. And really the premise of the book is commitment. So I take you through a different phases of transitioning and entrepreneurship, because it's a new relationship. And so when I thought about it, I'm like, okay, I've been married for 25 years, going on 26 years. Let me go back and think about what this relationship looked like, because I needed to be committed to it. What happened? So I went through the phase about understanding a different relationship, just like work. It's different. It's a different work relationship.
Right.
Then I started talking about the flirting stages of it. I kind of like it a little bit. You know how when we flirt, we kind of like things a little bit, and then we dated.
Sure.
Then we got engaged. So when you get engaged, what happened? You get your supporting cast, you get your bridesmaid, the location. That's the same thing with transitioning. And then you marry it. Mm-hmm. And then I do talk about the ups and downs.
Yeah, of course.
Ebb and flows. So
right.
I really want those who are in relationship to kind of look at this. And I think you can have a better understanding and not that fantasy, because it's work. Mm-hmm. If anybody's been married and been in a relationship, it is work. And so I really want you to see that. I mean, first it was all good. You were flirting with it and kind of like it a little bit. Those days, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when the sparks are flying.
The sparks are flying.
Right.
No commitment, but I kind of like it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, dated a little bit. It's like, this feels good.
Right.
So that's what you do with the gig economy. This feels kind of good. You're still working. It feels kind of good, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get a little comfortable and then you get engaged to it. Now
right.
it's a commitment.
Right.
Now we go to another level, and that's what entrepreneurship is.
And then you get the business equivalent of the dirty socks on the floor, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And how you deal with that in the business that you've started or bought or whatever.
Right, absolutely, because you're going to have some ebb and flows. I always say you have to swerve with it. You have to be flexible, mm-hmm. And that's in marriage. There are some days, you wake up like, why?
I know my wife wakes up with that thought, but anyway.
Like, why? But I think if you stay with anything long enough, it'll work itself out.
Sure.
And that's my whole,
sure.
That's my message. You stay with it long enough. That's why your why really has to be strong enough, because there's going to be some days. I mean, I did that. You question yourself. You're like, it's so easy to just go back and do what was easy.
Right. But I love what you're saying, because if your why is only, I want to make more money, or if it's something that's really too self-absorbed and not really about serving.
Oh, absolutely.
Then you're going to run into a lot more problems than you would otherwise. Right.
And then last year was one of my best years, but I gave a lot and I felt good about it. Mm-hmm. It was not about the dollar. I was laser focused. Mm-hmm. And I needed things that was going to be alignment with what I'm trying to do. And one of them was serving. You got to be able to, it's not about you. Mm. And so that's another mind shift as well, because we've been taught the American dream success and it's been put upon us. But I think as an entrepreneur, you get to develop and create what it is for you. And that's what I love about it.
That's great stuff. So I want to shift gears just a little bit. Because people that know you, know of your work, and, there's some folks that may want to follow in your footsteps in writing a book. So talk about a little bit about that and whether you advocate that for people and, kind of what the pitfalls and the joys of that are.
That is a pitfall for me because I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And I find myself, I'm ADA. I'm all over the place. But I do think that if you have somebody to help guide you, it can be helpful. Mm-hmm. I thought that at the end of writing this book, the best thing I could have done, because I was having this writer's remorse thing going on. But if you record yourself, and that has been really beneficial for me. And then also, you watch people on the sideline and ask questions. I interviewed a lot of people to understand what was it that made your journey what it was. And then a lot of it came from my inspiration, because I came from a family. My mom was a sharecropper. She dropped out of 3rd grade and she didn't know she was an entrepreneur, and she didn't know that she was giving us those tools. My boys, I got a millennial and I got a Gen Z. They are entrepreneurs. They graduated from college. Well, the 20 years still in college, but they graduated because they saw their mom, and they just got back from Tokyo, and they got their products in 9 stores, 23 and 20. And so they're killing the game. So what I would say is that sometime our life story is necessary.
Right.
What you have to go through. I knew at some point I was going to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to write a book. Again, I just didn't know how, right?
Sure.
And so this is my 2nd book. And so I wanted to really put some work around. It's a lot of work, I will say, especially if you're traveling a lot. And I did a lot of traveling last year.
Right.
But I do advocate for it, to answer your question.
Okay. So, again, folks, the name of the book is Before You Say I Do to Entrepreneurship. And the subtitle is What You Need to Know Before You Leave Your 9-to-5 Job. So, let's say, Tonia, that I've already left my 9-to-5 job. I'm already in the business. I'm 5 years in or whatever, and I'm in the soup. And I'm struggling. Well,
I find that you can't do anything alone. Okay, that's the first thing. So I had to hire a coach. And that, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, meaning that sometimes you need others to stretch you and to take your business to a different level. So you really can't do it alone. I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I hadn't had a coach. And I do think that for those of you that are growing your business, been in it for 2 or 3 years and you're stuck, it's helpful to have someone. But some of those concepts can definitely help as well, because sometimes we have to go back to the mindset. We have to go back to our money story. I talk about the money story. Sometimes a lot of reasons why we're not doing as well is because our backstory with our money. The financial piece is so important, And so when I coach individual, I find that, yes, I can tell you to have a budget and plan and all that, but I need to understand your money story. Because sometimes your money story could be the game changer of why you're not moving forward. So there's a lot of different things. It's like 5 strategies I use. I talk about, being definite mindset, your why. The one that I love the most is your support system. And I talk about this a lot, that, yes, you have to have support system, meaning you may have to have a coach. But my husband is a great support system. But I think it's important for you to understand what that looks like to you. My husband is a meat and potato type guy, meaning that he wants hot meals every day. So before I came out, I'm like, let's talk about this here. And I said, I know that you like to eat hot meals every day, but are you going to be okay with a rotisserie chicken and a bag of salad? Because that's what's going to happen. Right. And so he was good with that. And I see so many women in particular want to do all the things that they used to do, which is nothing wrong with that, but you have to balance that and prioritize it.
Well, and there's so much pressure, and particularly with social media, and people think everybody else's lives are perfect, right?
Right.
People look at that and say, hey, they think other people are living that perfect existence, and it doesn't really exist, right?
Right. They just tell you the end part of it. They don't tell you the beginning in the middle.
That's right.
You need help.
That's right. That's right. But so back to those, to the issue of somebody that's been in the business or been in a business for a while, there's a lot they can gain out of your book here, because you talk about renewal of vows. I like that.
Yes, because just like in my business right now, I had to repivot and redo things a little bit different and keep it fresh. And that's what most of us entrepreneurs that's been in it for a little bit, we need to take a step back and say, how can we give a rebirth to it? So just like a marriage, you've been in it so I'm getting ready for Valentine's weekend, we're going to renew our vows. And so it's just a refreshing, because we're at a different season in our life and we have different expectations. And that's the same thing with business. So that's why I put the renewal of the vows.
I like that. And you have to go back to your original why, right? And sometimes is like you were talking about pivot. Sometimes your why changes.
It does. It really does. Because again, I started off, and I still do a lot of multi-generation work in the corporate setting, but I am so passionate because I see so many women in large numbers come out, right? They come out, but they have to go back in so quickly.
Right.
And so the question is why? So I want to be the problem. So why are we going back coming out in large numbers and we're going back in large numbers? It doesn't make any sense. What's going on? And they didn't have a transition plan. They didn't address the question on the mindset. They don't know what their why, how big their why is. A lot of them just wanted to come out because they just was in love with the fantasy that I can work for myself and I'm a CEO. And what does that look like, right? And then the financial piece and the fear, all of that is wrapped up to why we go back,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on it early on here. If you do not have a plan, it makes it a lot tougher.
It really does. So when I first, again, it took me 5 years, and I don't advocate 5 years, but the only reason why it took me 5 years, because I had 2 boys that were going to college and we were cash flowing it, right? And so my goal was, when I come out, I want nothing in the way, from a financial standpoint, because, when the money is short, you don't have good creativity.
Right.
I wanted some staying power. So I paid stuff off and put money to the side, and I had a plan of when I was going to come out. Unfortunately, I came out sooner than I wanted to, but that was okay because it was time. But I see so many of us come out thinking that someone is going to purchase our products or services, and they don't. And if you don't have a plan of networking with people, building relationship before you come out, that's just time that's taken away from what you can be really doing. You want to run when you come out. Now, I do know there's people that get downsized and they don't have a choice, right? So there's another ramp up period. But I still think we all should have a transition plan for our life. Like, what if?
Sure.
Because it's not a matter if, it's when.
No question about that. Well, this has been great. And folks, I would encourage you to check out the book, and Tonia will give you information on how to acquire it. But it's called, again, Before You Say I Do to Entrepreneurship, What You Need to Know Before You Leave Your 9-to-5 Job. So, Tonia, why don't you give folks your contact information if they want to be in touch, and tell them how to get the book.
Okay, you can contact me at transition-enterprises.com. That's my website, transition-enterprises.com. The book is on my website, and you can also get it on Amazon. It's on Amazon as well. And also, if you want to experience me, if you want real conversation, authenticity, I am going to have a summit on March the 21st, which is on a Saturday. It's a half a day, 4 hours, and I'm going to really dig in deep about what you need to really do to transition. And then we're going to have fun with it. So I encourage you. I'm on Facebook Live. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. And again, transition-enterprises is the website. And my book is on the website as well. And the event is on the website. You can go to Eventbrite.
Okay.
And also my book is on Amazon. So I'm excited because this is Women's Month in March. This is a new decade. And I know so many people want out. And
right.
The question is, the whole theme of that summit is Transition Now 2020, Women Owning Their Destiny Through Entrepreneurship.
I love it. Tonia Morris with Transition Enterprises. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you so well.
Thank you. Folks, if you need some help curing the headaches that come with owning a business, like administrative tasks or bookkeeping, marketing, presentations, I think you probably talked about outsourcing a little bit in your book, right? I think you did. I know you did. Well, folks, here's an answer for you to that problem. Go engage a smart and reliable office angel. They're not a temp agency or a placement firm. Office Angels matches your business support needs with angels who have the talent and experience necessary to fly in and help you maintain and grow your business on an ongoing or as needed basis. Your terms, your timeline. They lend a hand when needed, and they fly off when the job is done. Find out more at officeangels.us or call Chief Executive Angel S.E. Escobedo at 770-442-9246. And folks, just a reminder, you can listen to this show every Tuesday morning live at 11:30, and we also have special shows on occasion through the week. But if you miss any of our live shows, we're a podcast-based network, and you can find us on all the major podcast apps: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify. Your favorite podcast app. I have yet to be stumped on one folks can't find us on. Just search for North Fulton Business Radio and you'll find us. You can also go to northfultonbusinessradio.com, find our archive of shows. Again, going up on 200 shows, a number of great business leaders like Tonia that have been on our show over these past 4 years. Also connect with us, please, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. On each of those social media outlets, we're at North Fulton BRX. So for my guest, Tonia Morris, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Business Radio.
Renaissance Rewards Extra is the checking account that checks all the boxes. Roadside assistance? Check. Cell phone insurance? Check. More than 400,000 local shopping discounts. Check. Up to $25 per month in ATM refunds and a great rate? Check. All in an easy-to-use mobile app. To open an account or find out more about Renaissance Rewards Extra Checking, go to RenaissanceBank.com or visit us at any of our more than 190 locations throughout the South. Renaissance Bank. Understanding you. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.